Alright, today we're going to be talking about the young Canucks phenom, Elias Pettersson. Pettersson, whatever you want to say. So, we of course have all heard of the sophomore slump. Many players go through it, but at the same time many players learn and grow as they go on because of course when you're a sophomore you're usually around 20-21 years old. So again, you can only expect growth. Elias Pettersson was drafted 5th overall in the 2017 NHL draft. But funny enough, a lot of fans, not me personally, but I saw a lot of fans that were pretty upset with this draft pick. Kind of just like Olio Levy, and even with Brock Besser when we drafted Brock Besser over Travis Konechny. However, Elias Pettersson of course proved a lot of people wrong. He led the SHL in scoring, 56 points in 44 games as an 18/19-year-old. Come on. On top of that, he had a monstrous playoff. He had 19 points, 10 goals in 13 SHL playoff games, obviously winning the championship and then taking home the MVP trophy. Elias Pettersson shattered many records, including previous records held by who else but Henrik and Daniel Sedin and just some guy named Peter Forsberg. And with that being said, many analysts, many people still did not regard Elias Pettersson as a top consensus, top tier prospect, which honestly just blew my mind. And then of course, we know what happened after that. And even with Elias Pettersson's, great performance last season, many people are still assuming that because he slowed down at the tail end of last season, that a sophomore slump is bound to happen. And honestly, I would agree with you. We've seen many players, Nathan MacKinnon, who went through he went through a big sophomore slump and kind of teetered off until obviously the recent years where he's really turned up his game. And of course, with a lot of young players, there's still a lot of growth to take place. And of course, there's always a big learning curve. However, the Canucks this offseason, of course, have made a huge splash. Obviously acquiring a lot of supplementary wingers / scoring depth. And of course, last season, the Vancouver Canucks were a team that had many injuries. Just an uncanny amount of injuries stacking up on top of each other. It was ridiculous. And because of all the injuries, we had players like, Josh Levo, Roussel, Brendan Leipsic, who were all making up our top 6 winger depth. Now, I really like Levo, I love Roussel, but these guys, they're just not top 6 forwards. You can make the argument maybe they're fringe top 6 forwards. They come in, fill in for a little bit, but at the end of the day, on a playoff contending team, they are not top 6 forwards. On top of this, guys, we had Derek Pouliot on our #1 power play. Derek, guys, understand my pain. I've said this many times before, but I still can't comprehend it. Derek Pouliot was our #1 power play quarterback for a decent stretch of time. With all that being said, Pettersson was still producing at a crazy rate, especially within the first 50 games. And a big reason why I truly believe that Pettersson is really going to even turn up his game for next season is because that Pettersson will have ample opportunity to score much more next season because of actual secondary scoring depth. For the first time in a very long time, the Canucks have actual secondary scoring depth, actual wingers to play, obviously with guys like Bo Horvat. All the odds were really stacked up against the Vancouver Canucks last season. Many teams, many analysts, many teams, really expected Vancouver to be a bottom team. There was a real hope that the Canucks were really going to be a draft lottery team that could potentially have the Hughes brothers, and I was one of those people that were really hoping of that. But of course, when Pettersson's scoring at a crazy rate, Besser's going, you can't be too upset to see a lot of internal growth. But again, all the odds were against the Vancouver Canucks last season, and not really to blame Jim Benning, because obviously we're in a rebuild. There's going to be a lot of painful seasons. And of course, short-term pain, long-term success. We've been going through that short-term pain the past 5 years as Canucks fans. But that is really what it takes to be a deep playoff team for many years. Short-term pain, a long-term success. So with all that being said, with all our horrendous depth issues, no secondary scoring support, no winger support, and all the injuries that we sustained, the Canucks were 9 points away from a playoff spot. 9 points. Do you know how many games the Canucks won? Do you know how many games that the Canucks lost by 1 goal? too many to count, to be honest. Not only that is, of course, we went on like a 10-game losing streak. If we had just won 5 of those games where we lost like 10 in a row on a horrible stretch of injuries, there's a chance that we were a couple points away from a playoff spot. Okay, but let's get back to the title of this video. Why will Elias Pettersson score more goals next season? Well, I have 4 reasons. Number 1, this is Brock Boeser's first offseason, I guess, being completely healthy since he came into the NHL. And of course, him and Pettersson are still growing as young superstars. And guys, I can honestly say that Brock Boeser's injuries really did affect him. There was a big difference last season when Brock Boeser didn't have the whole offseason to train, and then he came into the season, he just looked off. But eventually, he got back in the rhythm and he was scoring at a great pace. And of course, they're still both very young, and if we get to see a full season out of Brock Boeser and Pettersson, just expect growth just based on that. Number 2, Quinton Hughes. No further comments. Number 3, no, it's just joking. But Quinton Hughes is really the offensive defenseman that the Canucks have been lacking for honestly a decade. The last, truly offensive defenseman the Canucks had was, Christian Ehrhoff. And I don't even know if you'd really consider Christian Ehrhoff our true offensive defenseman. He was really only here for a couple seasons. And other than that, it's been decades since the Canucks have had, obviously, a number 1 power play quarterback defenseman. Other than Derek Pouliot, because obviously last season, Derek Pouliot did pretty good number 1 power play. But Quinton Hughes is going to tremendously help our power play. Again, the Canucks were ranked within the bottom of all power play percentages last year, and that is just not okay. We have way too much scoring threats. We have way too many just phenomenal scorers. Obviously, Pettersson and Boeser on one side. Obviously, Pettersson and Boeser on each side, Horvat in the middle. There's no excuse for the Canucks to have a bad power play. Hughes is going to add the one thing I really feel like was lacking from our defenseman. Derek Pouliot, Alex Edler, they just weren't creative enough. Hughes is exactly that guy. Not only that is that Hughes is a phenomenal passer, just crazy hockey IQ. And combined with Hughes' uncanny ability to combined with his skating ability to open up the ice and find those open holes, of course Pettersson and Boeser are going to be in way more optimal shooting positions for next season. They're going to have way more power play chances next year, and our power play is just going to be a blast to watch. And honestly, the biggest reason I believe that Pettersson's scoring is only going to go for next season is because of scoring depth. No longer are the Canucks going to be the team that only has really one line to worry about. Last season, of course, teams eventually cued in on the talent that Pettersson had, which allowed them to really break down his game and prevent him from getting the same chances that he was getting from previously. And other teams didn't even have to worry about putting all their shutdown guys on Pettersson because we didn't have good enough scoring depth to create a big enough threat where they'd obviously have to rearrange their roster. Now, of course, with adding guys like JT Miller, Michael Ferland, no more injuries, and a lot of internal growth, it is going to completely change the dynamics of our lineup, and it's going to take a lot of pressure off Pettersson, which is just going to be much better for him. And it's going to help him not get as tired as easily. Because Pettersson really was the number 1 target on our team last season. It was very obvious. And taking off some of that pressure off Pettersson is really going to help. There was many times last season that Pettersson didn't even have opportunities to even shoot. There's games where he was getting like 2 shots a game. And with Pettersson's shooting percentages and how good of a shot he actually has, that is just unacceptable. But again, Jim Benning, they tried their best this offseason. Their best to help that, and I think it is going to pay off. And most importantly, PD is only 20 years old, and he's only going to get better. Especially if you take into consideration that one of Pettersson's biggest downfalls was his strength. And he's only going to get bigger, he's only going to get smarter, and he's only just going to get better, which is honestly pretty scary to think about as us Canucks fans. Like, we're only just witnessing the start of the EP era. Like, I feel like in Pettersson's first season, he's really done it all. Like, honestly, every goal that Pettersson scored, besides like a couple, were honestly just all highlight reel goals. This guy is a highlight reel machine. And I'm very excited for next season, and I know all of you guys are too. But anyways, guys, let me know what you guys think about Elias Pettersson down below. Is he going to have a better season than the one he had last year? Will he score 30, 40 goals? Let me know what you guys' predictions are down below. Very curious to know. And another thing, guys, is I just made a poll on my channel. It was my first poll, so hopefully you guys answered my poll. But I'm thinking about doing a lot of live streams or a series, like an actual channel series where you have episodes about doing a franchise mode on NHL 20 for the Vancouver Canucks. And I, combined with all the help of you guys, we're going to get the Vancouver Canucks back to the Stanley Cup Finals. We're going to get them back to the Stanley Cup. Back to the Stanley Cup. We're going to get them their first Stanley Cup. So let me know down below, guys, I guess, if I should do a live stream, if I should live stream that with you guys, or if I should do a series where I have episodes, and then every episode you guys comment down below, and then obviously I take your guys' comments into consideration, and then we rebuild the Canucks to glory. But anyways, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Appreciate you guys so much. See you guys later.